Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'm going to be talking about the updates that's going on with the coronavirus, and this is episode number 5 for the Coronavirus War Room. So let me give you an update on the actual stats from Johns Hopkins. We have worldwide we have worldwide 3.1 million, roughly. 3.1 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 worldwide. And we have over 218,000 deaths. Italy is leading with the number of deaths with over 27,000, Spain 24,000, France 23,000, United Kingdom 21,000. But that is, in the United States, it's measured in county, not by state or by the country. So the United States is pretty large in terms of total deaths. Now, the United States is number 1 in terms of number of cases, and China is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Number 10th in total number of cases. China is claiming that they have just under 83,000, almost 84,000 COVID-19 cases with 4,637 deaths. Now, there is no way on this planet that that is possible. And it leads us down to the road that I've been mentioning earlier, that the CCP has been lying to the world. The Chinese government has been lying to the WHO, and/or the WHO has been in cahoots with the CCP to actually hide the numbers. Now the question is why? If you follow the money trail, these uber organizations like the WHO and the UN and the IMF and all these other huge international organizations have been infiltrated by Chinese money. Even at a lower level, they've infiltrated industries in the United States. They've infiltrated through lobbying our own senators in our own House of Representatives. So we need to wake up and realize that the Chinese government has been lying for a long time on this. And anyone that thinks otherwise is not paying attention to the data. There is no way where you have over 1 billion people and you only had 84,000 cases of COVID-19. Chances are they had close to 100 million cases of COVID-19 or more. And they must have had more deaths than 4,000 if they have a bunch of crematoriums running 24/7 during the height of the Wuhan crisis. So there's no way that it's just 4,000. New York alone is 17,000. And New York is only, just under 9 million people. So the Chinese were lying about the severity of this, but we'll get to it, because this episode of Coronavirus War Room, I want to try to encapsulate what exactly we're at right now. What kind of like an overview. So we have China lying, and the numbers are so ridiculous that it's not even funny anymore. All right. And the United States now, let's focus on the United States. The United States has over 1 million confirmed cases. Now, do we have more cases than what is actually on the books? Yes. Why? Because there's an awful lot of people that call into the show, that send me emails telling about their experience, either in November or in as far back as August or October, where they felt something different when they were sick. This is in 2019. And then some of them talked about they would get sick and then 2 weeks later they would get hit again with a chest infection that wouldn't go away. So it wouldn't surprise me there were an awful lot of people that contracted some strain of COVID-19 disease. All right, we don't know what strain they had, but there is enough evidence out there, enough data that saying that individuals were getting it way before January, either August or September, October, November, December. We do know that influenza-like symptoms radically increased on December 18th in New York, radically, and continue to climb. So that delta between last year and this year, in terms of influenza-like symptoms in the month of December and early January, most likely were COVID-19. So these cases that we have, we must have more cases than the 1 million, just by infections that were pre-2020 that happened in the last quarter of last year. That's one issue. The other issue is not everybody's tested. In terms of number of people tested, I think it's only, total test results in the United States, it's only almost 5.8 million people. Well, out of 330 million or 320, whichever number you want to use, that's a very small percentage. So we have probably an awful lot of people that have contracted COVID-19 that we have not tested for. Now, they most likely have an antibody. There are people that probably have died that even know that they had COVID-19. All right, during this time period before we really start testing at the CDC, or at the local level. So there must be millions of people that have contracted COVID-19. Now, with that said, there is a big debate about the death rate. Well, if you're only going to look at published data from Johns Hopkins, then the death rate is going to be larger than reality. If you look at the data set where it expands the number of people that have antibodies that haven't been truly, that weren't tested within the CDC database, then that number is going to be larger than the number of people that have the disease or had the disease. Because of that, the numbers will bring down the death rate. This is in line with a presentation by two doctors in California. The video has been pulled down. I'm sure people have seen this, that watch this channel, where there were two doctors in California stating that the chances of death from this virus is very small, and they didn't believe that the measures for quarantine were prudent with looking at the data now. Now, you got to remember, I always talk about the fog of war, and you when you're dealing with an unknown, you have to view things in the extreme, because you're dealing with an unknown unknown. All right, but we have more data now. So if you're going to use a scientific method, you got to look at the data and reevaluate your position on things. So in this case with California and probably other states, I'm not so sure about New York, but with California, they were stating that the shelter in place, or whatever they call it, the quarantine, may be too aggressive because to die from this disease is very low. These are facts. So he's right about that. What we don't know is the latency. We don't know the full dynamics of the blood part of the blood disease part of this disease. We have a little bit of an understanding of the lung part of the disease. We have a little bit of an understanding of the neurological part of the disease. But this hypoxia between ARDS and non-ARDS hypoxia, you probably have some patients that are partially ARDS. You have some that are, maybe a lot, that are non-ARDS. I think it really depends on how much of the red blood cells and T cells have been infected. And we know multiple receptors are involved, such as ACE2, such as CD147, or CD209, and CD299, and GRP78. These are all involved. So we're dealing with a lot of unknown here. I'm very concerned about the latency, which doctors aren't talking about, but there isn't any data. That's why it's an unknown unknown. There's a black swan potentiality that I classify as an AIDS-like syndrome that might happen because this is a blood disease also. And no one knows what the long-term effects of the fibrotic scarring in the lungs are. So it's a problem, especially if you have comorbidities, and especially if you're elderly, all right? But we hear young people getting it that are completely healthy and that have major problems, and I've seen the CT scans. So it's not, but if you look at just the data, and you step away and you look at the number of people that have been infected or have contracted COVID-19, and you look at the number of people that have died, the death rate is much lower than anticipated. I expected a 3 to 5% death rate. Shelter in place probably slowed the R0 knot quite a bit and reduced that death rate. That's a strong possibility, a very strong possibility. Also, proper hygiene. But it leads us to the other part of the equation. We can't live in fear forever, even if there is a latency, even if there is an AIDS-like syndrome that possibly could pop up in 5 months, even if there is gain of function with this virus, or there's different strains floating around that could be even more harmful in a second wave or third wave or even a fourth wave. I still think that this is going to last. I still think that this is going to last for 18 months, 20 months, all right? Because I believe that there's going to be 3 waves. I hope it's attenuated, that it's weakening, but it doesn't mean, we don't know if it will or not. And even if it does weaken, we don't know if the latency of that AIDS-like syndrome that I'm talking about pops up in 5 or 10 years. And I'm not trying to scare anybody, but these are possibilities with strong possibilities. They're not just like off the cuff, well, maybe that'll happen. Because this thing has HIV homology in it, and it's attacking receptors that infect red blood cells and T cells. These are facts, all right? But there's that civil liberty component. We can't live in fear. So I'd rather take risks and live in freedom than to have these individuals say you got to be in shelter in place and stay safe, but it erodes your ability to provide for your family, go to work, or live a free life. It's better to take the chance. And that's the American spirit. So I think the main core of this episode of Coronavirus War Room is that, yes, this is a very dangerous virus. Yes, it was bioengineered and it ended up being a bioweapon. There are multiple strands floating around. The question is, how many are there? And what's the makeup of them? I don't think anyone really knows, all right? We do know that at least the ones that have been sequenced, there's HIV homology in the virus. And this was designed to kill, all right? And it probably was designed to go dormant and then designed to kill again. So we have to be vigilant, but we can't let our civil liberties erode and live in fear. That it's not the American spirit. And people are getting fed up with it. You know, my generation, Gen X, has been hit so many goddamn times because of bad policies from the government that destroyed major wealth. The tech bubble was one, where all this financial engineering went into tech companies and destroyed people's wealth there. 9/11, the never-ending war in the Middle East. And then you had Lehman. That was a major disaster. And now this. Gen X is fed up. Enough is enough, and we're not going to take it anymore. It's no more. So to encapsulate the main theme, it's a dangerous virus. It can have a latency or have a strong potentiality of latency, and we need to wait to find out. But that doesn't mean that we are in shelter in place forever. And this idea of, giving us forced vaccinations and tagging us and, IDing, ID 2020, and make sure you have your papers to prove that you have the antibody and all that. That's against our civil liberties, and that stuff's got to stop. Now, last night we heard from a Texan that was talking about milk, pigs, beef, and chicken not being able to be processed and had to be wasted. All right. Now, my understanding is late last night, the president must have heard something, and he did an executive order to say, no, you're processing food. So, hopefully people are listening, and that will help with making sure we have a food supply. But these globalists, they're trying to kill us in so many different ways. They're trying to kill us with our wealth, destroy our wealth. They're trying to take away our land. They're trying to destroy our energy infrastructure and control our food supply. And then force this vaccine program. This is going to have to end. It's a dangerous virus, but the American spirit can prevail on this. And we're going to tell these governors to fucking shut up. And we're going back to work. And we're going to start rebuilding this country. And we're not going back to that. We're not going back to the pre-Wuhan day where we're buying a bunch of fucking Chinese products. We're going to start buying our own products. We're going to start building our own industries again. We're going to help those people that lost their jobs and lost their businesses. We're going to rebuild America. Why? Because that's the American spirit. Hamilton, in the late 1700s, made a report on manufacturing for Congress. It was the very first one that was made. And it laid the foundation on how America was going to be a manufacturing superpower. All right? That was back in the late 1700s. The reason being was because England wanted to control the colonies before the Revolution and make sure that only the inhabitants of the colonies were buying manufactured goods from England. All right? They didn't want the colonies to make their own goods. But as the revolution starts and we win the war, we start building up our manufacturing. And that took us right into World War II. If it wasn't for that manufacturing prowess, we would have never won World War II. So that was the reason why we had such strength. But these globals knew that, and they wanted to weaken us. And they just slowly eroded our manufacturing base. It's time to bring it back. We should never buy a Chinese product ever again. We should demand that all of our products are made in America. This globalization thing has destroyed us. It is time to bring it back. I'm not saying, I am voting for Trump, but it's way beyond Trump. This is Hamilton. This is our Hamilton moment to tell everyone we're not going to be under the tyranny of the king. We're not going to be under the tyranny of some other empire. It is our destiny to make sure that we build for our country and not buy Chinese products. The Chinese were trying to kill us. They want hegemonic power in the Pacific. We're not going to give it. We're not going to give it. We're not going to let that go. My grandfather, my grandfather Oscar, on my mother's side, he was a CB. What they were, he worked in the Navy. He during World War II, and what they did was they island hopped, and they were in demolition. So what they did was they took over an island in the Pacific, fought the Japanese, took over the island, paved it so they could have the B-52s. And the B-52s had to island hop. They had to go to the island hop to be able to do the bombings on Japan. That was my grandfather. My grandfather fought on the island to make sure that we had hegemonic power in the Pacific. So we're gonna let that go? We're gonna let the Chinese just take that? I'm thinking about all of your grandfathers that fought in the Pacific, or fought in the European theater. Are we going to just piss that away for shareholder maximization because some asshole from Wall Street thinks that that's the best thing to do? This is what has happened to this country for the last 35 years. Once they rolled in NAFTA and try to do TTP and all these other multilateral trade agreements. It was an erosion of our wealth. It's time to rebuild this country, and we need to start today. We're going to help our own. Because we've been building up China. We've been sending money to China. We've been buying their products. China didn't build itself. We built it with our own money. And then now they have technology, and they have infrastructure, and they have a military where that's now going to check our hegemonic power. So how are we going to weaken them after they, continued the weapons development on this virus and let it out? Probably on mistake, but maybe it was on purpose. Who knows? Bottom line is they did something they shouldn't have been doing. We got to stop feeding that machine and not buy Chinese products and let them go straight to hell. That country needs to fall. That government needs to fall. Now, hopefully, the people there, the citizens of China wake up and pull down the CCP. But this country needs to wake up, and we need to rebuild our own manufacturing and our own products and our own pharmaceuticals. I mean, everything we've noticed with the supply chain has been disrupted because we built this fragility, the fragility in the just-in-time system, depending on another country. We should have never done that. There's nothing wrong with just-in-time, but why isn't it just-in-time in this country? Why does it have to be why do we have to be buying products from another country? There's no reason for that. There's nothing that someone makes outside of this country that we can't do. Nothing. Nothing. Don't believe that we can't do it. We can do it. The people that are pushing the agenda to push it overseas, they can make a big cut on it. You know, the hedge fund managers or the CEOs that have certain options where if they improve their bottom line, you know, they'll improve their own wealth. But they'll destroy yours. So we need to build this country. So there's a lot of components to this. It's not just a virus. It's not just because it was a bioweapon. And it is dangerous. And we don't know what the long-term effects are. But it's eroding our civil liberties, and we need to start stopping this right now. And it is now time to go back to work. And it's now time to tell the governors, we are Americans. We are going to take the risk. And what will happen is some people will get sick. And we're going to have to take care of them. And there needs to be some sort of fund, government fund, to make sure that COVID-19 people that are taken care of with their health care, 100%. But we, as Americans, are going to start taking risks and moving forward instead of staying in this shelter in place, and they're going to totally erode our civil liberties and destroy our wealth. And you can see in the major industries, the food industry, the agricultural, the livestock, the energy industries, they're destroying them. So Americans are all about taking risks, and it's time. It's time. So call your governor and say, it's time to start taking risks and quit the bullshit. And don't be forcing that vaccine. And, oh, by the way, start doing congressional hearings on Fauci and Birx and Redfield and all the other clowns that were inventing this weapon back in the 2010s range. All right? And other weapons that were going back to the 1990s. And why did Fauci fund gain of function over at P4 Lab? We need to have congressional hearings on that cocksucker. But, you know, he's put up in the media as like this, you know, he couldn't do anything fucking wrong. But that guy has blood on his hands. So, a little update on regionally the deaths in the United States, okay? Because it is important to report on. But we still have to take risks and go back to work, because that's the American spirit. All right, in New York City, so we're talking about the 5 boroughs, we have 17,682 deaths as of this broadcast. The second county in the United States happens to be where my parents are, in Wayne County, Michigan, which is 1,682 deaths. So what's good about this is that New York, it does have a lot of deaths. That's bad. But the difference between the next largest area is drastically lower. So we're talking about 17,000 in New York, and then we're just under 2,000 in other regions. So that's a really good sign, because you know, we're near, at least in New York, we're near the peak. We're past the peak and going down. Other regions of the United States is like at the peak, or maybe slightly past the peak. Others are still climbing up. But that's good that we have this big change, and it's only 2,000 in other regions. But it will go up, but we have to take risks. That is the American spirit. See, what they did was they tried to go, everything's bad. You know, you got to hide. No. This is a war. There's going to be casualties. But the government can make sure that the people that contract the disease are taken care of. But we can't let this country fall and have all our industries fall. And these people that say, oh, you know, some people out there are germaphobes before Wuhan, all right? And they are so germophobic that they are afraid that these people will go and do reinfection. you know what? I understand that people will get sick when we go back, get out of shelter in place. The far majority are probably going to not need ICU, all right? And they won't die. That doesn't mean that there's not a long-term effect. There may be that latency that I'm talking about with AIDS-like. But we can't let this country fall. We can't let the Constitution be eroded. That is far more important than your life. The Constitution in this country is more important than my life or your life. And we have to protect that. So these germaphobes that are saying, oh, I want to stay home and I don't want to get sick, then I don't find you being an American. Because it's time to take risks and prevent that E7 and at surveillance technology that they're trying to put in, and prevent that Biopatriot Act, where they're pushing that vaccine on you, because that's an erosion of our constitutional freedoms. So Michigan is Wayne County area where my parents are is just under 1,700. Nassau County for New York is just under that, also near, it's about 1,647. Then Cook, Illinois is 1,457. So that's kind of like the top four in the deaths. They will climb, especially when we go out of shelter in place, but we have to persevere. That's the American spirit. And we have to hold these people accountable. We have to hold the individuals that were running rogue in the Defense Department, that made a weapon, that let it out, and that hurts a lot of people. Every single person, scientist or politician or anyone that's tied to this, needs to be held accountable, because they have blood on their hands. And a key person is Fauci. Now, today, de Blasio was talking on his news conference, and he focused more on mental health issues, and because of this crisis. Part of it is the ones that are sheltered in place, and the mental health issues that might arise from that, and the worries financially, which is totally understandable. But he put a lot of emphasis on the first responders. And the first responders have been doing their best to try to understand and try to care for people. So people that look down on the first responders, that upsets me. The first responders are very important to try to support, and people don't realize doctors and nurses and other healthcare professionals, they have they have one of the highest suicidal rates. People don't realize that, So this crisis, we have to thank those first responders, and realize that they are under extreme stress and exposed. I mean, they most likely have COVID-19. Maybe a lot of them may have an antibody to it. But, we need to take care of our nurses and doctors and other healthcare professionals. So these people that, you've heard these cases where these people will spray, spray bottle, at gas stations, a nurse or something, or say negative things to a nurse. I mean, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. And we need to support them. But de Blasio was talking about the mental health aspects to it. So I have about 2 or 3 videos about mental health that people should watch for individuals that are not in the right place mentally during this crisis. And there's multiple reasons why, either because they're sick or because they're stressed out being sheltered in place for so long. I'm tired of being sheltered in place. It's time to move on with our lives and take risks. But I understand there are people that are, that are depressed with this, and they may need help. So listen to those videos, and there's some ideas one can do to de-stress or reach out to a mental health care professional to help you. And also those ones that are first responders. They some of them are stressed out. Some of them just need to talk. That's why I do the call-ins on my show. Is, people are complaining, oh, I have them talk too long. They're cooped up in their home for so many fucking hours every day, and they're tired of it. I let them talk because they need to let out their ideas and thoughts. They want to share their experiences. That's the reason why we have the call-in. So people say, oh, I just want to hear it 3 minutes. No, because someone's life is more than 3 minutes. I mean, come on. So, then I haven't heard Governor Cuomo's speech today. He may be playing it now. I'm not sure yet. But that's pretty much like an overview. The market now is moving up. Now I'm going to do another video on a little bit more on the technical analysis of the market. I still think there's a little bit of an uptick, all right? Part of it is because of Gilead having some positive results for remdesivir, which is against what the WHO was saying about a week ago. So there's some hope with therapeutics. I'd much rather have a therapeutic than a vaccine. I don't believe the vaccine will work, even though they'll try to force it on us. And they've been working on a SARS vaccine for so long and they still don't have one. So why would, they would have it in record time here. So I don't want the vaccine. I don't trust the messenger RNA platform. And it is pushed so heavily by Fauci, you have to ask the question, why the hell is he pushing a vaccine that is focused on the messenger RNA platform instead of saying, I don't care what the therapeutic is, I want to solve the problem. That's what a scientist would do. But he's on the take. He's pushing an agenda. And again, we need to call him off on it. So the market is slightly moving up, but it's too early for the average investor to get in. This is a professional market. So it's better to be holding cash because you don't know what's going to happen in October. Once we get past October, we get out of shelter in place and we understand the dynamics of the reinfection and to see if there's a second wave, which I expect there will be. If it's attenuated, if it's not that bad, then that's the time to get into the market. If it's as bad as what we saw, then it's time to hold and hold that cash. And don't chase the market right now. They want you to chase the market because they're going to put money in. They're thinking that you'll chase the market, you'll put money in, and then what they'll do is the market will crash again if there is a problem in October. So I would wait. Now you can do whatever you want because it's your money, but I'm telling you, it could be a head fake. But it's just better. I mean, what's the worst case? What's the worst thing that could happen? So you miss the entry point? Once we get past this, the market's going to go up. All right? But you don't know when that up is going to be. So, and you don't know if it goes down again, another leg, and we have to go back into shelter in place. Can you imagine what it's going to do to the economy? We already had an annualized GDP of a negative 4.6 or 4.8% in the United States. That's pretty bad, all right? And it's going to take a while to heal the damage that is caused right now, let alone more damage that might be caused in October. That's why I'm saying we need to take risks and rebuild this country, all right? But there's a difference between the economy and the market and the financial market, All right? Don't get the two confused. The financial side of this, the stock market side of this, that's a professional, the only professional should be in that right now. If you're an average citizen just investing for retirement or saving for a home or college education or something like that, do not go in. Do not go in. Do not go in. Wait until October to see what happens. If we start getting the reinfections that are as virulent as we have or as bad as what we have right now, then there's going to be another downturn in the market. But if it gets better, then it's time to go back in. I'll tell you when it's go back in. But it's only for professional traders because they have IPSs that they have to maintain. They have fiduciary responsibility to manage portfolios, and so they don't have a choice. All right. But if you think that you're going to be a super trader on this, you're probably going to lose money because you don't know what you're doing. Because most people that are retail investors, they don't know what they're doing. If they make money, they're lucky. So don't. The people that took my advice and sold, hold your cash. Hold the cash, wait. See what happens in October. If it looks like it's all clear, then it's time to move in. Because it's like an insurance policy. You're just being safe, right? So I'll do another call in. I'll do another call in maybe tonight. But I have to do a seminar. I have a research seminar that I have to do for my project, which is about the TAT protein. I did a presentation about TAT helping treat MS. Well, this is helping to treat peripheral nervous system disorders. This paper that I'm writing. So that I have to present tonight to my peers. So after that, I'll probably do a show. My seminar ends at about 9:20 or so Eastern time, so I'll probably start the show maybe at 9:45 or 10 o'clock tonight Eastern time for the call-in. And again, I want to talk about things like the geopolitical side of this. Prosecuting the key players, or I call the Fauci gang. Making sure that we don't have our civil liberties eroded and that the Bio-Patriot Act is instituted in any form. They're going to try to slowly roll it out. But we need to protect this country. We need to take risks. This is what the American spirit is. We are pioneers in the face of adversity, in the face of unknown. We don't need this top-down government. That's not part of the character of America. This country has been overrun by a bunch of fucking liberals. Now it's time to take back our country. And the time is now. So thank you for listening, and start taking some risks. We're building our country again, and we're not going to let our politicians erode our civil liberties. So contact your governor and say, hell no, we're going back to work. Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.